What up, fam? Welcome back to another episode of Reading Reviews by Ryan. Oh, damn, that's clean. So, first order of business. Custom merch is coming out. It's kind of a big thing. I've been putting some effort into this. Probably too much, but I will post a link right here so you can go grab some. Second order of business is I submitted a little video to the Daily Mail thing. I think you probably seen them on Snapchat or something, but they were looking for up-and-coming YouTubers. So I sent them a little video intro, and they hit me back, and they gave me a little shout out last week of being one of the up-and-coming ones. And they said it's not speculative. I was grounded in my roots and everything. It's a good business idea, some good stuff. So here's the link to that here. All right. Hell yeah. So very exciting stuff going on. Perhaps this will be my side hustle. I'm not sure. Didn't expect it to grow this fast. Hopefully it's not just a bubble. Oh, what a clean-ass segue into the book of the day. A Random Walk Down Wall Street. It's by Burton Malkiel. Don't kill me on the name. I butchered it. I know. This book gave me all the info I needed to start investing in the stock market, and just to have it absolutely shaft me in the past 3 days to where I have lost 50% of my earnings over the past 4 months in literally 2 days. But it's COVID, so I digress. It will correct itself, and we'll see some increases hopefully in the future. So buy and hold, people. Buy and hold. And that brings me to the one-sentence summary of this book. What do we want to do? Us Gen Z, us millennials, we're too busy. We're too busy scrolling on Instagram to learn how to do this investing. So I'm going to give it to you straight right now. Here it is. If you're going to invest in a particular stock, let's say, for example, Netflix, a stock, before you do that, do your research. Don't buy into the hype. Speculation creates bubbles and they inevitably crash. He calls it the financial law of gravitation. So if you're going to invest in a particular stock, make sure that the share price makes sense given the earnings and the potential growth. But that's tough. You see, it has to be grounded. Everything has to be grounded. Consistent revenue and profits over the years so that it's not just a concept stock, but it has some girth to it, some meat and potatoes to it. However, for those who are normal people, such as myself, who really just want to make money over time, here's what you do. Put your money into an S&P 500 like tracking stock, like an ETF, an exchange-traded fund. It's like a basket of a whole bunch of stocks that tracks the market, which, as we've seen, pretty much monotonically increases. Even after the spike of COVID, is now back up and has corrected itself, and it's even growing since then. I don't know since Friday, but you know. The reason is no trading strategy consistently beats the market over time. Even though people get big wins year after year, all it takes is that third year comes crashing down. So just toss it in some S&P 500 stuff. All right, chapter 1 is called Firm Foundations and Castles in the Air. So these are two theories that he'll introduce in this chapter. First of all, he wants to specify, what do I mean by a random walk? We're not talking about mathematics and Brownian motion. You know what I'm saying? We're talking about short-run changes in stock prices are unpredictable. This is the claim of my boy Burton here. So he's talking about earnings forecasts and chart patterns are useless. So a chart pattern is just like that freaking heartbeat-looking chart that shows past stock prices, and a lot of times people use that and only that using really complicated mathematics to try to predict what's going to happen in the future. And that was part of a startup way back when that we tried to do that, and man, it was just, there's too many factors involved. That should only be a part. It shouldn't be the whole thing. So, and then he also goes to define a difference between speculation and investing. Let me read it here. Speculation is for short-term gains. These are the people who are out to get quick money. Stock market ain't the place to do it. YouTube ain't the way to do it. Trust me. Investing is looking for a dependable future stream over years or decades. Retirement type stuff. An important thing to note is that just to stay even, your investments have to produce a higher rate of return than inflation. And I think inflation is typically around 2 to 3%. So anyway, 2 theories. Firm foundation theory. This is the boring stuff. But this is the useful stuff. This is by the books. You measure what's called intrinsic value. It takes careful analysis, really in-depth stuff of the present conditions of the company, and you try to think about its future prospects. Not necessarily predict what it's going to be, but you say, based on this, based on what they plan to do, it has a lot of future growth potential. So that is firm foundation theory, rightfully named. Second was a little bit more abstract, more exciting, but also stupid to do. Castle in the air. This is basically using psychology, and you try to just predict what the people will do. If you think the people will buy into it, the people are the market. So if the people do buy into it, even though it's a stupid-ass company, such as reading reviews by Ryan, if the people like it, the price will shoot up. That's how it is, supply and demand. We've known that. So this is inherently psychological stuff. And a nice example is when he is talking about doing a beauty contest in a newspaper. So let's say I have 6 people. And then what I have to do is rate these 6 people. And then if I get the closest to the average of all the people, I win some money. Even though I think number 1 is the hottest, I'm not going to put that because I think perhaps the people will think number 1 is like the 3rd hottest, you know? So I'll put 3 for number 1 in the ranking. And that's exactly what Castle in the Air is. You try to think like the majority, the mass of people. And if you get in before that, so let's say I think that reading reviews by Ryan is going to blow up next week. So I'm going to buy it now. If it does blow up next week, you are on the ground floor. Profit. Start showering in your champagne. However, if more realistically, reading reviews by Ryan crashes into the pavement and gets driven down and stifled and buried, then you're out of luck. That's how it goes. So here's the thing. This is kind of a greater fool's theory. So even though I'm paying way more than I should for this stock, if I could find some dumbass to pay higher for it, I'm going to make money. Problem is, dumbasses run out. I guess that's a thing. You can't find someone dumb enough to pay higher than what you did. And since a thing is worth only what someone else will pay for it, if nobody wants to buy your share, you're going to try to sell it, everybody's going to sell, and it's going to be deflated back down to 0. Chapter 2 is called The Madness of Crowds, and this kind of goes along with the line of the castle in the air theory that I was just spitting about. Passionately spitting about. It's a very funny introduction to this. He quotes Mark Twain. October. This is one of the particularly dangerous months to speculate in stocks in. The others are July, January, September, April, November, May, March, June, December, August, and February. If you guys didn't catch that, that's every single month of the year. This chapter kind of goes into the 20s. And all about the speculative bubbles. I mean, he's talking about tulips. What else is he talking about? The South Sea bubble. The tulip thing was in the 1600s, right? Who cares, okay? Here's the bottom line of this chapter. Speculation in the crowds drives the market up. All of a sudden, those things can't perform like you thought they would. Boom, everybody sells. They have no earnings. Everybody sells even more. They're getting a bad rap. Everybody sells even more. All the way down. All the way down. Here he mentions the financial law of gravitation. Unsustainable prices eventually and inevitably come back down to earth. Crowds cause these bubbles. They hype it up. Once prices are high and people realize that it can't continue to exponentially increase, somebody sells, people start to sell, and it's a snowball effect, tumbling downhill. It's just a speculative craze, and then somebody realizes that it's just a craze, and it's just a framework, just a facade, No meat and potatoes. The crash of 1929, of course, as I mentioned, was due to mass speculation and manipulations of the market. Now we're talking about some conniving stuff here. Crazy, nasty, insider stuff. Oh man, a nasty storm is a brewing. There's this one thing called investment pools where these people work together to manipulate the stock price, and then once it's skyrocketed and they make their profit, they mass sell, and then everybody loses money. Those who bought at the top, like my dumb ass would with Apple the past couple weeks. Another thing is insider trading for short selling, which is when you sell high without even owning the stock. You borrow it from somebody. You borrow it and you sell it. And then you buy low. So it's the opposite. Instead of buying low and selling high, you sell high and you buy low. The last thing that I want to list on this chapter is this sentence here. Very sharp increases in stock prices are seldom followed by a gradual return to relative price stability. Instead of a gradual return, it's going to drop. Chapter 3 is speculative bubbles from the 60s into the 90s. Reoccurring theme. What do you think is going to happen? People are going to hype it up, they buy into it, company cannot perform, boom, all the way back down to zero, bankrupt, lose everything. So in the soaring 60s, the tronics boom, electronics was the buzzword, so everybody kind of manipulated their company names to somehow incorporate that in there, even if they were not an electronics company. I think in here, there was literally a company that baked brownies or something, and somehow they related that to the electronics stuff. All right? One of the other things in here is the conglomerate boom. This is when companies merge. One company buys another, and then another, and another. Cleverly enough, the acquisition process literally manufactured growth. This is a concept of 2 + 2 = 5. And I'm no mathematician, but that just doesn't sit right with me. Something ain't clean in the milk with that one. In order to do this, they would cleverly swap stocks and then keep some price to earnings ratio multiples high so that your stock gains value, even though really nothing has changed with the companies. You just acquired them, and that allows you to do this mumbo jumbo in a non-noticeable way to the naked eye. One of the last things that he talks about is what's called a concept stock. The Sunshine State, eh? Concept stocks are basically exciting concepts that are interesting and compelling, and they have a good story that people will believe. So it's essentially a castle in the air, right? And these don't really have consistent revenue and profit. It's just the concept. So let's say I want to make a company that can build robots to scratch my back without wrinkling my shirt. I don't know how to do that, but it sounds cool. I would buy it. I know you guys would too. But it's not going to happen. If you invest so much money into that stock and you help me and you say, yeah, Ryan, I want to help you get this business off the ground, and I get no profit, you're going to lose all your money. So concept stocks are bad and they're speculative because there's nothing to back it up. Chapter 4 is called The Explosive Bubbles of the Early 2000s. I'm going to ask you one question. How do you think that these bubbles were created and then popped? Speculation of the crowds and mass buying based off of nothing. Sound like a broken record. Don't even watch the rest of this video. Not like most of you assholes made it to this point anyway. But I digress. In this chapter, he talks about 3 bubbles: internet, real estate, and Bitcoin. So just really quick, let's go through them. He says most bubbles have been associated with some new tech or business opportunity. In the case of the internet, it was both, right? And it was fueled by this positive feedback loop of people getting hyped, people buying, so the media talking about it more, so people buying even more, media talking about it even more, people buying more. Let me see how this goes. So the thing that fueled the internet is terrible business ideas, and what we talked about concept stocks before, where there was no merit behind it. It was just an idea, and people funded it, not knowing that it could, if it will or could be actually done, if it was feasible. Another thing is that you couldn't trust security analysts. They are giving out advice based on what's going to make their broker the most money, and hence them more money. Do you see how this works here? They work for their broker, not for you. The housing bubble back in what, 08, 09, back when we were still watching Justin Bieber's One Time video on repeat? Or was that just me? Anyway, there was a new system of banking. Looser lending standards by banks and mortgage companies allowed people who traditionally were not able to purchase a home get a home. Because of these new systems of banking and government guaranteeing mortgages of low-income borrowers, the demand for housing skyrocketed because it was so easy to get one. Everybody wants one because it's one of the biggest things in your financial portfolio. It's huge. So then it's easier to get a house. Everybody's buying. Prices sharply increase. Continue to increase. And boom, all of a sudden people realize, oh my God, I can't make these mortgage payments. I'm going to have to default on my loan. Bam, bam, bam. Happened. Boom. And the thing is, this was a credit-based bubble, which he says here are the most disastrous because everybody's leveraging. Everybody's leveraging on stuff that doesn't even exist from the start. And then it collapses inevitably. I can't believe, it's crazy to me how this works. I'm going to read a book on the banking system, see how all this plays out. Finally, we talk about Bitcoin. So this is another disruptive technology. And it said back in 2010, a Bitcoin sold for like 39 cents. All of a sudden in 2017, it hit a peak at 20 grand. So you can imagine how much money you could make if you speculatively invested in Bitcoin. Because here's the thing, it's trying to take the role of cash. Cash is tangible. Bitcoin is strictly tech. Now I'm in tech, and I read 2 books on Bitcoin. I still don't really get it. How it's mined and everything. You have to create a network of computers to mine these Bitcoins. And as time goes, it gets harder and harder to mine. So you think the average Joe over sitting in the middle of South Dakota, surrounded by cattle, is going to use Bitcoin? Good quote here is, money is what money does. And right now, all Bitcoin does is trade on the market. I can't use Bitcoin to go get a pedicure, so why do I need it? I'm going to wrap this video up here. This was only part 1 of this book. There are 4 parts. So I think I'll do part 1, 2, 3, and 4 for the sake of my viewers so that instead of watching 0.02% of the video, you can maybe watch 0.08% of the video. So I'm going to shorten them in length so I'm not sitting here for an hour and a half talking my ass off about all this stupid stuff that you might not even care about. So next week, or perhaps sooner, I will drop part 2 of A Random Walk Down Wall Street, and I'll see you guys then.